Hey, hey, hey. Um, I wanted to very quickly show a design that I've been using for a long time. It's a simple Kelp Farm node. I actually stumbled across this in a Reddit forum back, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was pre Caves and Cliffs, actually. It's a really old design, but it still works. And if you're starting off very early in the game, you don't have a lot of materials from the nether, no quartz, etc., then it's really hard to build a kelp farm without any observers. Well, these kelp nodes don't require observers. They require a redstone torch, a piston, some blocks, some water. So very, very little requirement. And I'll go ahead and switch over into creative so I could show you exactly how the design works. And then I'll come back and show you where I put mine. All right. So here we have some examples of our kelp farm nodes. As you can see, these only require a redstone torch, some redstone, piston, a few drops of water, and I'll show you how to build that with just a single water bucket. And then, of course, some stone to channel the water and the kelp away from the farm. These are simple nodes. They could be pretty close to each other. These are about one block away from each other, but they could actually be stacked right next to each other. I just wanted to show some examples of them, and I'll go ahead and quickly build them. So I typically start with a base. You could put these underground if you want. You could stack them all next to each other. They're pretty wide and pretty large per node. You don't want to put them right on top of each other because of how the redstone interacts. But you could place a whole bunch of these underground and get lots of kelp from it. And again, no observers required, so obviously you don't have to worry about lots of quartz from the nether. This is really good for a starting an early game. So first step is I built a platform so you could see. Then you're going to need to have blocked uh, blocks on all side of a piston, the piston facing forward. These blocks do need to be there because they're going to hold in a waterlogged piston. This is bedrock. Waterlogged pistons are a bedrock thing. So then I built the chute just long enough so that you could actually um, see the water flowing away from it. You can make this as long as you want it to be. You could connect them together so they flow into a chest, etc. But here's the basic layout of it. So once you have that base built, you want to dig one down so that the kelp could fit underneath it. So the kelp can fit down there. Um, and then you'll want to fill that with water. You'll need to go either get it from a water source or have an infinite water source nearby if you only have one bucket and you're starting early on. Then the next step would be to waterlog this piston right here. You do by dropping on the piston itself, and then you want to actually place a water source block right here next to it as well to flow out. So what will happen is when this piston launches, it's going to recreate this center water source block, and then that way the kelp can continue to grow up. So next step is we're going to create the redstone part of this. So I'm going to build a little overhang, and then underneath the overhang you can put a redstone torch, and then you're going to break this block right above that. And then finally, you're going to build, this is the key piece, a little redstone circle that will create a, a clock interaction. It will trigger that piston. And then once that's been triggered, you could remove these other redstone pieces. So you only actually need one piece of redstone in the build. And then once that's done, you could see the redstone torch is actually off. And this redstone torch will recognize adjacent blocks. So anything I place here, any changes here, it recognizes. And most importantly, the changes in the kelp when it grows right next to that piston. So I'm going to place down the kelp. And then if you place down kelp above that, as if the kelp was growing, you can see it creates more. And there you go. It just went in and shot that along. You would expect across ticks, you're going to get this kelp to grow, and it'll keep going. One thing that does happen every now and then with this is there is a bit of a cooldown effect. Typically, the kelp will not grow immediately one tick after the next, but I've seen it happen every now and then. But if you see it will break right away, but if you add right away, there is a cooldown effect. So it is a few split seconds. You can see that won't catch. But again, for the most part, that cooldown is not necessary. I'm going to let it go for a few seconds, and there you go. And that's it. Pretty simple design. Each one of these nodes um, really requires very few materials: water, piston, and then a redstone torch, and that's it. Some blocks. Great to have lots of kelp from a farm. Put all these underground. You can make huge stacks of them, and then you'll have tons of kelp growing without any use of observers or anything that you wouldn't have very early on in the game. So kelp is really great for obviously um, dried kelp, and then you can have tons of materials for you to be able to smelt different items with. So that's it. Pretty simple design. All right. That was a really cool, simple kelp farm design. And let me go ahead and show you very quickly where I have mine located here. In our server, I had put some right at the spawn point when we first started the server, and then I actually moved them near my base too. It's ideally you want to put it under your base, but you could put it within, a low chunk radius as well. Mine are near the very large hole that I have dug around my base, and they've been there since I've started this particular base several years ago. So let me go ahead and switch over. All right, let me go ahead and show you where I put mine. So I actually have them loaded over there. They're actually, here's my main base. This is a very large hole I have running out of my base. And then my kelp farm is actually located in the ground right where that piece of scaffolding is. So um, pretty simple to get to, but I have it closed up. I almost never check on it. Go down in here. Here it is. These are really not visible. I just built them out of cobbles. They're not anything mangy. There's the infinite water source I used to build them. Here's the nodes for them. I don't know how many stacks I have. I have dozens of stacks of these. So, but yeah, here's my kelp farm. I think it goes down pretty far, then drops down into a hole way down there, and then runs out to my base. Simple as that. I'll probably revamp this whole area, make a whole bunch of nodes. I'll probably actually do that when we get crafters in Bedrock. That'll be a fun little project. I'll add a whole bunch more and have it crafted into dry kelp. Great stuff.